Harif, who Harif, for those who are new to us, is the UK Association of Jews from the Middle East and North Africa. And our mission is to raise awareness of the history, the culture, and the heritage of these Jews. We are a charity run by a very small group of volunteers. We have a website, which is www.harif.org, where you will find all our events. Please bear in mind that to receive details of our online events, you have to be subscribed to the Harif mailing list, and it's free and very easy to subscribe. Just go to our website. We've got a sister website or blog called Point of No Return, which is updated every day. There are over 7,000 posts on all aspects of Jews from the Middle East and North Africa. This session is being live streamed to the Harif Facebook page, and it's also being recorded. And hopefully, the recording will be up in a matter of hours, all being well. And you'll be able to find it and all our previous recordings on the Harif website. Just click on videos. I'm sure that you will have lots to share with our speakers tonight, and maybe you have some questions and some comments. And if so, there will be an opportunity to put them to our speakers. But please do use your real name and not iPhone or iPad. Just to say, this event is being run in partnership with Jemena, who are the Jews indigenous to the Middle East and North Africa, based in California, and we're very happy to be partnering with them tonight. So on to the subject of tonight's Zoom. Your Rosh Hashanah ritual dinner need not be limited to apple and honey. Sephardim and Mizrahim mark Rosh Hashanah with a rich variety of different foods. In fact, you could call it a seder. These foods are called simanim, and a blessing is recited over each one. So as we approach Rosh Hashanah 2024, Harif has invited three accomplished cooks to tell us what their specific traditions are. So we have one with roots in Iraq, one with roots in Tunisia, and one with roots in Syria. And they will all be sharing a particular dish or dishes that they like to prepare for the occasion. So welcome. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome here tonight Sarah Sassoon, who's joining us from Switzerland, Serena Roffet, who's joining us from Rochester, New York, and Fabienne Weiner Luzzato, who's in London. So our first speaker tonight is Sarah Sassoon. And Sarah is a poet, essayist, and children's book author. She is passionate about researching and writing about her Iraqi Jewish roots. And she also loves cooking, and she loves to conjure over a pot to feed her husband and her four boys and a dog. Her books are Shoham's Bangle and This Is Not a Cholent. And these are sort of ingenious ways of talking about Sarah's Iraqi roots, I think, through food. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to you, Sarah.
Thanks so much, Lynn. It's really lovely to be here tonight with you and Serena and Fabiana. It's wonderful to be with fellow Mizrahi cooks and North African cooks with Tunisia. Um, it's interesting as an author and an Iraqi Jewish woman. What's the most interesting thing I've discovered about my research is that food tells a story. So as a storyteller, I use food to access stories and bring it alive. And when Lynn said, will I join for tonight to discuss the Simanim of Rosh Hashanah, I said, for sure. I know exactly the food I'll bring. And then I realized, what other foods did my grandmother make for Rosh Hashanah? And I could only think of the one. And I realized, let me do some research. Let me understand why, because I remember we had lots of food on the table, lots of simanim, and we had the seder as Iraqi Jews growing up. But why don't I have recipes? And I did a lot, I researched, and the answer is within the research. So what's interesting is our food memories tell us, and as an Iraqi Jew, it tells the deeper story of the Babylonian Jewish history, and it goes all the way back, as it should, to the Babylonian Talmud. So I've prepared a screen, which I'm going to share now. And I'm sure many of you, I can see that Joe Samuel's here. He'll know more than I do even about these simanim. What I do is fill in the blanks with my research. So yeah, let's start. So the Gemara speaks about the whole idea of simanim, the siman means a sign, like a symbol, really, a sign that will tell good fortune. So the Gemara has this explanation, this whole interesting account of Rav Ami saying that if you want to know if you're going to live through the current year, you should light a candle for 10 days. And it goes on, and there's a whole discussion of the different signs. And but then at the end they say, but you shouldn't come to rely on these signs, which we understand in Judaism, we're not very into signs. It's a dangerous path to follow. But then Rabbi Abaya says, now that you've said that a sign is a substantial matter, a person should be accustomed to eat at the start of the year gourd, fenugreek, leeks, beets, and dates, as each of these grow and multiply quickly, which is a good omen for the deeds of the upcoming year. So here we have the source for the simanim. And as we see, this is what they created. They created these are Aramaic words: tamari, rubia, karati, silka, and kara. Each of them is a food, and each of them is a play on the words of the food, which is really interesting. It's something very beautiful, actually, to think that, for example, and this is the order that the Rabbi Yosef Chaim, the Ben Ish Chai, made for the simanim. So that's the order I followed here as well. So if we look at each of them is a sign from the Aramaic word, which is the symbol, the sign that we pray for the new year. So we start with dates, tamari. So at my grandmother's table, we had dates. And the Yehi Ratzon prayer that we say is, may our enemies be vanquished. And then we have the rubia, and they actually call it rubia. So it's really, the name is lubia, but they call it rubia as the siman, because shirbu zechiyotenu v'til vavenu, may our merits increase and our hearts expand. So it's that play on word within it. Shirbu and that's why it's called rubia, from that Hebrew word shirbu. And then we have karati, we've got the leeks. And again, what is it? May those who hate us be cut off. Yikratu sonenu ovenu sonen v'chom v'ksheratenu. I put the full one down here. May those who hate us be cut off. And it's a long kind of, is it a blessing, or it's a sign that this shouldn't happen? And then we have the silka, the marigold. May you cause our enemies and those who hate us and seek evil for us retreat. Yistalku ovenu v'sonenu v'chom v'ksheratenu. That's silka from selek. So we use marigold leaves. And we have the gourd, the kara, which is zucchini. The Iraqi Jews use zucchini for this. And it's again, Yikra gezad dinenu v'yikra'u lefanecha zchuyotenu. May our bad deeds be torn and our merits be announced to you. So now at my grandmother's table, I don't remember seeing beetroot. And I found out why. There's another opinion. There's another, they discuss these signs, and it says that you shouldn't eat them. What the Iraqi Jews actually do, for example, the marigold, they use marigold and they tear it. They yistalku. So like your throw, no, they don't tear, I think they just like throw it away. Like they make the action of it. But for the gold, for kara, they really, for the leeks yikra too, they do tear it. So it's these, the first two are, there's only one here that's really positive in a way that's to increase our merits. The other four are against our enemies. And so therefore you don't eat it, which I think is really, really interesting. I think they probably ate the dates um, for the fruit of the meal, but it wasn't like a dish that you'd make. And therefore I don't have recipes for any of this. When they came to Israel, they started making like zucchini leek kitzitziot, which is like leek patties and everything. But that wasn't what I grew up with. Which I think is really interesting. So I grew up more with the actions of it. And as a child, I didn't remember them as much because I guess I was more interested in eating. What I did remember though, and I remember I was in, what we do have so you go through all these Yehi Sons at the seder, the Rosh Hashana seder, and you are tearing up the leeks, you are and there's a debate whether you eat. Nowadays, people eat all of this. I also eat it at my table. I actually had to go back and research and see, no, my grandfather actually tore it. My aunt said, no, we tore it. And I checked with other Iraqis and they said, yes, we tore it, we threw it, because that's the symbol. We were getting rid of our enemies. And something else that's interesting about that is to think that when I was growing up and saying the Yehi songs, I didn't relate to it that much, but I actually am from Jerusalem. I live in Jerusalem now. I grew up in Sydney. And now living in Jerusalem, I know this Rosh Hashanah, we're really going to take these simanim very seriously. And the other symbols of Rosh Hashanah, the pomegranate. So we know, may we be filled with good deeds like a pomegranate is filled with seeds. And in Iraq, they used to get the pomegranates from Israel. And I also heard for Tu B'Shvat, they also used to get fruit from Israel, so for the Tu B'Shvat Seder. And that was very interesting to hear as I was doing the research for tonight as well. And then what did I remember from my grandmother? So we've got the apple and honey, which is what the title of this whole talk. But really, I don't remember apple and honey at my grandmother's table. I remember apple jam. She would make apple jam. And again, it's from May you renew us for a year that is good and sweet like honey. And I found the source for that as well, which I'll go through in the next slide. For the head of a fish, which we're used to, in Iraq, they used to have head of a ram. So now, obviously, we all have a head of a fish. But if they did have a head of a ram, they would also say this, and you shall remember for us the binding and the ram of our forefather Isaac, the son of our forefather Abraham, peace be unto them. And I think there's something so symbolic of the ram, that idea of, again, the kapara, that instead of Isaac, a ram was sacrificed. So instead, it's another whole different symbol for the head. So it's not just that may we be the head and not the tail. No, whatever bad should happen to us, it should be a kapara. We shouldn't be the one sacrificed. Something else, like a ram, should take our place. And I thought that was also very interesting to look into the sources of why we have this Seder and the symbols. So now to go on to my memory of it. So apple jam, like why do we even have sweet things in Rosh Hashanah? I loved finding this source because it's something I love, the book of Ezra and Nehemiah. In the book of Ezra and Nehemiah, there's a chapter that speaks about the people coming together to learn the Torah. And Ezra is like re-giving the Torah to the people. And the people begin to cry. And Ezra and Nehemiah say to them, don't cry. It's a day of joy. It's a day to go home. Go eat choice foods and drink sweet drinks. And send portions to whoever has nothing prepared, for the day is holy to our Lord. Do not be sad, for your rejoicing in the Lord is the source of your strength. And they say this Rosh Hashana, the first day of Tishrei. And from here we get the idea that it should be a day of sweetness. And that's the whole idea of apple and honey. But we had no apple and honey, we had apple jam. And I remember I was in South Africa, I was newly married, and my husband's family, his grandfather's from Baghdad. In fact, when we were engaged, my grandfather and his grandfather spoke, and they spoke in Judeo-Arabic, and they were discussing their principle that they shared in Baghdad when they went to the same school there. And it was just fascinating that they had this shared history, in a sense, a shared culture, shared Baghdad. And but they didn't have apple jam on Rosh Hashanah. He married a Welsh girl with Polish and German roots. So she wouldn't have known about apple jam. So I called my grandmother up and I said, can you give me the recipe? And so this is the recipe. This is exactly what I wrote, what we have here on the screen. And she said it like a kilo of apples, 2 cups of sugar, peel the apple, put sugar on top overnight, and put it on the fire the next day, add cardamom and rose water. This was literally my recipe. And that's what I did. And it worked out. And every year now I make it. And for me, it's very symbolic of my Rosh Hashanah, and it's something that the kids enjoy, and I give it to guests and give it as gifts for Rosh Hashanah because there's something very beautiful about this old custom of apple jam, and people have forgotten about the apple jam. So I'm very happy to encourage you all to make this recipe for your Rosh Hashanah seder. It's on the Harif website. Another thing that I do at my Rosh Hashanah Seder, inspired by the symbols. In my research, I actually saw this as a source as well, that you're encouraged to make your own signs and symbols for the new year. As we can see from the Gemara source, the signs were created by the rabbis as a sign of good fortune. While you're looking for signs for the new year, let's make it orderly. These are the foods you're going to use. These are the Yehi Ratzons you're going to say. So something I do to make it fun for the children and our guests, and also to engage everyone in the fact that you can create your own signs and symbols that will help you in the new year, something to give you strength for the new year. And so one of the signs I like to do, I make mahasha, and I stew the onions, and I say this is symbolic of taking something that's bitter and makes you cry, like a raw onion. And when you cook and you fill it with what's good, you can turn things that are difficult and tough into blessings. And that's a very strong symbol for me that I like to offer the table. And there's also, I make lemonade. The Iraqis, my grandmother used to make lemon water with sugar, and I make that as well. And I say the typical one, turn your lemons into lemonade. And then I always have lots of food on the table and all different dishes. And I encourage everyone we go around and everyone makes their own symbols from whatever inspiration they get from the food on the table. So it's not only about going to the past and seeing where the idea of having symbols and signs on Rosh Hashanah comes from as we prepare for a new year, as we come together as a community, as a family, to wish each other a good year, and as we go into ourselves and ask, what do we need for a good year? It's also to create for the future and inspire our children and ourselves to realize we also are co-creators in the new year that we will create together. And it's inspired by this idea of signs and symbols of that the rabbis instituted for Rosh Hashanah. So I really encourage you all to maybe also think of signs and symbols that you could create at your table. And I'm sorry I don't have more recipes, but really apple jam's the main one.
Okay, that's absolutely lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah. And I really love the idea that this is a sort of movable feast, if you like, that you can add your own simanim with their own symbolism. By the way, if you want Sarah's apple jam recipe, it is on the Harif website. If you're going to check it out after this Zoom is over, you'll probably find it on past events, under past events. So thank you very much, Sarah. We move on to Serena Rafay. who is joining us from Rochester, New York. Hi there, Serena. Serena
Hi.
is a professional genealogist. She's the author of 8 books. She's the founder of the Sephardi Heritage Project, and she's a historian of Syrian Jewry. And she's also the author of the Backyard Kitchen series. And I don't know how she does it, but she is forever doing things, writing things, and looking after her family. And she's written hundreds of articles. She's got an app called Serena's Sephardic Cuisine. Um, I think you better tell me the rest. Anyway, so Serena's going to tell us about her Syrian Rosh Hashanah traditions.
So I found it very, very interesting that we have a lot to share with what Sarah was talking about the Iraqi traditions, but there are some significant differences. And so what I actually did was I prepared the foods because I wanted to actually show you the foods. And I hope that after this is over, they'll be on the Harif website and people can actually download all of the recipes. I actually, for those of you who follow me, you may know that my grandmother came from, my mother's mother came from Beirut. Her father came from Aleppo. And they had a restaurant, not a restaurant, they had a catering business in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn called Salem Catering. And this was in the days before there were social halls. And so the recipes that I got came from her and from my mother, who was the eldest child of 8. Now, my grandmother, what they used to do is they used to cater events, again, before there were social halls. Middle Eastern people had, you would go to the synagogue to get married, and you would go back to the house for your party. And so this was true of engagements, of bar mitzvahs, of kiddush, whatever it was. My grandparents would cater those events. And so the backyard kitchen was a converted garage in the back of their house. And as children, we would frequently go after school and sit in her kitchen and learn from her. Now, the Rosh Hashanah seder was always very special because we sat down together, and the recipes that I provided are recipes that actually came from my grandmother, who came to America in 1920. So I want to start by saying, first of all, our order is a little bit different, and some of the prayers are a little different. And this is the book that we use in our community. It's a Kiddush book, and it has actually the Kiddush for every holiday, whether it's on Shabbat, Friday night, whatever it is. This is kind of our Bible. It's published by Sephardic Heritage Foundation. And this is very, very widely used book. It's used in every single household to make the prayers. So obviously, apples and honey comes first. Kiddush, of course, of challah, and then apples and honey. Although when I posted that I was going to be on this, several people sent me, no, we use sugar. And I don't remember sugar as a child because it's been a long time. I married over almost 50 years. So I don't remember using sugar, but it is very possible. In my house, we have a slightly different version of it. Because we travel quite a bit, we collect honey from different places that we go, because the honey that you get is very localized. So there are different flavors of honey, and the honey that you might get, let's say, from the Maldives is going to be different than the honey you get from California or Spain or wherever. So what we frequently do is we put out a large plate with small bowls, kind of like this, and we put different honeys out. We label them, and we have honey tastings, and people can taste the different honeys. And that's kind of a new tradition that my daughter started. But it goes to that whole theme of apples in honey. The next thing we do is we have leeks, and it's so our enemies can be destroyed. Leeks in my house they're made two different ways. If you want to do kind of a simple version, you might just put it in your chicken soup and then take the leek out of the chicken soup, cut it up, and it looks something like this, but it's got that flavor of chicken. We seem to get a lot of vegetarians. So what I've learned to do is, because I'm respectful of that, I've learned to make like a leek patty or a leek ijia. Ijia is basically a fried patty. You know, you think of it as Hanukkah, you know, we call it ijia patatea, but we make them with meat. So at Rosh Hashana, I make it into just a little bit of a patty with some parsley and leek and eggs. So that's the leek. The next thing we do, which Sarah didn't mention, I guess it's something individual to Syrians, is we use Swiss chard. So sometimes that's replaced with spinach, but it's so God of our fathers that all our enemies may be removed. So again, a lot of these prayers are about removing our enemies, but also about sweetness and good luck and being fruitful for the new year. The next one, of course, is dates. And, you know, this is standard. It's also, we do it at Passover also. But again, it's so our enemies will be destroyed. And then we also do gourd. So gourd for us is the spaghetti squash. And what you do is it's sweetened spaghetti starch, so it's basically candied. And I can make one of these and I can freeze them and have them in my freezer for years. I just pull it out. But this is what it looks like. But basically it's candied. And we would always serve, like our seder would be that we'd serve in, you know, pretty bowls like this, and we'd put them all around. And we'd have different stations, because if we have a big long table, I might have 2 or 3 setups like this. So we always have that in our house. The next one is black-eyed peas. So black-eyed beans, which is, may our good deeds shall be plentiful as the black-eyed beans. And normally what we would do is we would make that into a dish that's actually served. We pray on it during the beginning when we're doing all the brachot, but we would also have that as part of our main dish, because we'll make it with garlic and allspice and a tomato base, and eat that over rice as part of our main meal. But we do the prayer first, you know, during the initial brachot. The next thing we do, obviously, it's a pomegranate. So the pomegranate, it's about, may your good deeds be plentiful as the seeds of the pomegranate. So it's a positive brachot. And I have a secret. A lot of people don't get a little bit afraid of opening a pomegranate. I actually love to use pomegranate in recipes even during the year. But I'll tell you a secret on how you open this. You pierce it, you know, along the sides, kind of like the way you do an orange, and then douse it in ice cold water. So like a bowl of water filled with ice, and just leave it in there for a few minutes, and then it becomes very easy to get the seeds out and to strain the seeds. But you can make beautiful sauces with this. I often you can buy it now in the store already seeded, but it is kind of fun. It's a job for kids, and we always want to include children in the preparation of the holiday, because you want to get them involved and get them excited and get them engaged in what you're doing. And then the last thing that we do, which is different than the head of the fish, which I know a lot of people do the head of the fish. We do the head of the sheep, or in what's become very trendy, we use tongue. So we go out and we buy tongue, and it's like $40 a pound or something ridiculous like that. But we get that tongue and have a taste of that as one of the prayers that we do. And it will be the prayer on that is may it be that we shall be in the forefront and not in the rear in all good that we undertake in the new year. So everything is about, like when we pray on our challah, we're praying because we have raisins in it, or we have put honey in the challah dough, and it's about that sweetness that our new year should be sweet, should be plentiful, that we should be written in the book of life. And we always have that in mind, because after Rosh Hashana comes those days of awe when we want to be especially good, because we want to be written in the book of life. And we want to be hopeful. We want good things to come. And especially this year when, anti-Semitism is at like 500% of what it used to be. And we still have all of these people who are still hostages in Gaza, and we want this war to end, and we want peace to happen. We want to be especially cognizant as the year comes that we're doing things that will help Hashem shine on us and get our hostages released and make sure that we have a year that's much more positive than it was last year. And with that, I turn it back to Lynn.
Well, thank you so much, Serena. That's amazing. It is interesting that there are different differences between the Syrian and the Iraqi seder. I think you have more blessings for good deeds, don't you, than the Iraqis?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, definitely for good deeds and for being plentiful. Like the lubia, which is the black-eyed peas. That's about being plentiful. The pomegranate, the seeds are plentiful. Everything is about good and plenty and growth.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. And I will upload more recipes onto the Harif website. So please do check it out, maybe starting from tomorrow or the day after when I've had a chance to do that. And it'll be under past events on the Harif website. So thank you, Serena. So we're moving steadily westward from Iraq and Syria. We're now in North Africa, in Tunisia, in fact.
Yeah.
And there
Finchley Central in London.
we have found Fabienne.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank
you for having me.
Thank you.
I'm actually going to complete what Sarah and Sarina said, because there is a lot of similarities about North African, Tunisian seder, Rosh Hashana seder. So just to give you a tiny bit of background about who I am, I've been living in London in December, it will be 23 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I originally came because my husband, now unfortunately ex-husband, was living here. He's from Chester, and we met in Israel, where thanks to the Keren HaYesod and young leadership, and we were part of an international mission to find a husband, and I did, and we have 3 amazing children. 2 daughters, Yael, 21, Leah, 18, and our little baby boy, who
the last time I saw him, he was little.
He was little, but now he's 14, he's a man.
Actually, may I interrupt you, Fabienne, and introduce the lady with you, who is Michelle Huberman. She happens to be creative director of Harif. And I'm sure that there'll be some goodies for Michelle to sample a bit later.
This is one of the perks of being a volunteer, okay? Everything's unpaid, but it's rather nice to be able to sneak around the corner. I know Fabienne, and I know she's an amazing cook. And when I heard that she was going to make my favorite dish, piquela, I felt I had to be here as well. It wasn't enough to be on the Zoom. I said, I'm gonna come round.
She had to eat it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm the youngest of 7 children. Both of my parents were then unfortunately not with us anymore. They were both born in Tunisia, in Tunis. My father's family came from Livorno in Italy. And when my actually grandmother saw my mother on the bus, she asked her if she was married, and she said, "You're going to marry my son." And this was done. But my mom was not interested, and he had to work hard. So when he met her, he was not religious at all. He lost his dad when he was 2 years old, and my grandmother had to work, and he was raised by nuns in a convent in Tunisia. Yeah. So when he met my mother, he knew more the Christians' prayers than the Jewish ones. He was circumcised. He had his bar mitzvah, but my mother had to teach him everything.
Was your mum a good cook as well?
I learned everything from my mum. I learned everything from my mother, but we were already 9 at home. So they moved out. They moved from Tunisia in the 60s, where unfortunately Jewish people were not welcome to stay anymore. And they had the possibility to go to Israel, because my mother had a sister in Israel, or to Paris. And she chose to move to Paris because the language was the same. And there was a big community already. There was already a big community. The language was the same. She had 5 children, and she was worried about a new language, a new country. It was still a new country. And yeah, so they moved, and I was born, me and my sister above me, we were the French children of the family. And stupidly, I did not want to learn Arabic. I wanted to be French, but I had to learn how to cook. This was the deal. So I understand Tunisian Arabic a bit, but I don't speak it, unfortunately. And by the age of 12, I was making all the desserts at home. My mother was in charge of, my mother was in charge of making the couscous and the boulettes, the meatballs. The Tunisian meatballs my mother made the loubia with meat. Yes. Make it vegetarian. Interesting. I'm reading a comment. The boulettes, have you had my boulettes? The meatballs are flavored with coriander, parsley, a lot of different spices, and they're wrapped with a thin layer of vegetables. And they are fried in garlic oil, and then they are like slow cooked. They are delicious. They take ages to make and 2 minutes to eat. So I was raised on a Friday morning, and on Rosh Hashana days, I was like waking up to smells of homemade challah that I make every Friday. Like if I don't make challah, I'm possibly ill, but like in bed. So I make it every Friday. And couscous and all these smells that are familiar to me. Now, marrying an Ashkenazi, I have to say that I learned to use a lot less oil, adapting the spices, not to upset stomach in my with my friends. And
so when you came over here, because Tunisian food in London, you can't find it. Jewish Tunisian food. I remember because I used to live in Paris and I absolutely adored Tunisian Jewish food. I lived on it, and you just couldn't find it in London. You still can't. It's amazing because it's such delicious food that you can't. Nobody's ever opened a Tunisian Jewish restaurant.
Yeah, you have quite
It's
a
for
lot
you.
of.
There you go. There's a calling.
Yeah, too much to do in life. Maybe one day. Everybody's asking me, when are you writing your book? And I said,
we need a book. We need a cookbook, Fabienne.
Yeah, I
So
know.
you've chosen pekela, which is a typical Tunisian dish served at the main meal on Rosh Hashana. Is that right?
Exactly. So we as well as Tunisian Jews, we have a seder, a Rosh Hashana seder plate. And now, even if you go to a very Ashkenazi shop in London, Kosher Kingdom, you see a card with Rosh Hashana seder plate. And it started possibly 5 or 6 years ago that I found this card. And there is a meaning. So I'm going to talk about, we have very similar meanings as the Iraqi or Syrian traditions, customs. For us, the pomegranate is like the multiplications of Jews. We need to multiply. We need to have loads of children. There is, of course, black-eyed peas for enemies. There is a lot of prayers against our enemies, a lot. And please God, they will be heard this year because we need them. We have a jam made with quince.
Really? I love quince.
Quince and how do you say a clou de girofle?
A clove.
Cloves. Thank you, Lynn.
Lynn's the one who's super fluent.
So make like a jam with quince, and it's very hard in London to find quince.
Up in North Finchley?
Yes.
Up in North Finchley in the Persian shops?
Yeah, or I find it near my work in Kilburn.
Oh, right, okay, but I know up the road here.
So unfortunately, my children don't love it. So I make it, and I will adopt you. But it's very interesting to hear that we have very, very similar traditions. Now, the leeks are often replaced or completed with spinach. In Tunisia, starting at the end of the month.
You have spinach. You have spinach. Yeah, we have spinach too.
And this is why we do this dish, the kela. Now, talking about your article that you sent me, the Jews in London, the French Jews in London, believe it or not.
10 years ago, I wrote that.
Yeah, 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, there was a shop called Be Kosher, and even 2 years ago, when French people were a lot, we were quite a lot.
There was a massive change in London. All of the restaurants changed. There were more kosher restaurants. It was because of the French coming here.
But I have to say, unfortunately, a lot have gone back to France, or a lot since last year, or even 2 years ago, have immigrated to Israel. And this particular dish that you're about to try,
I love this,
is made with a lot of spinach that you have to fry in a lot of oil. And frying the spinach took me 3 hours on Sunday afternoon to make
3
it.
hours?
Yeah, because you
stirring?
have to add the oil slowly and slowly and slowly. And you have to fry them like you can't burn them, otherwise it ruins it. And so normally you found this jar at Be Kosher,
£10.
£10 the jar of a kilo. but it was the job. Imagine 3 hours saved of your precious time.
I think I was doing it wrong because it used to take me about 45 minutes, which I thought was a lot.
You have to.
I did it wrong.
You have to do it very, very slowly. To cut a long story short, I didn't find the fresh spinach, so I fried them myself on the. So
you've done the
I had to, because I think there is less and less Tunisian Jews in London. So it's made of spinach, of beef. You really need to put a lot of marrow bones for the good.
Yeah,
you have to mix fatty beef with like lean beef. And it has to cook. So 3 hours of frying my spinach and 3 hours of like cooking the beef. And so you need time. You need time, love, and good wishes for your family over the new year. So this is what it's all about. It's about giving a prayer to your family, giving a good prayer to your children, to your guests, praying that the Jewish people will be safe, will be loved or liked at least,
tolerated,
yeah. And it's about giving all the time you have to please your loved ones, and to make them start the new year in a good and yummy
exactly. It's everything good,
yummy way.
Yes.
So
I'm
salivating. Yes. Where is it?
Go in the background.
Yes. Can we have it? Can we eat it?
It's what's quite interesting. Well, Fabienne gets that. It's the first time I had this meal in Paris. Somebody said you must try it, and it turns up. And when you look at it, it's not an appetizing dish to look at. It's very dark green, black. There's nothing appetizing about it. But when you taste it, it's like you're totally converted. It doesn't matter that it's not the right color and everything. It's really one of the most delicious dishes. It's the first thing I do when I go to Paris, is to search out a Tunisian kosher restaurant to have pakela. And now I'm just going to come round to Fabienne in Finchley.
Yeah, that's right. You don't need to go far.
No, exactly. You don't need the Eurostar.
Okay, that's lovely. Obviously a vegetarian nightmare though. If there's a lot of bone marrow in it and a lot of fatty meat and lean meat and all that, I wonder if someone has developed a vegetarian alternative.
I don't know. It's really for the carnivores. It's one of those dishes. I think if somebody was, what would you do, Fabienne, if someone came over and said, I'm vegetarian?
I will, first of all, I will ask before, because I will never invite anyone without asking.
Because maybe you can just put the sauce to one side and
put
it onto and just have it on the couscous without the meat. You know,
you can have a vegetarian version.
We need to hold it to the camera.
Yeah, can you hold it up to show us? Oh wow!
So it's not very pretty.
You can forget the smell. The smell is absolutely. One day we'll be able to transmit.
Yeah. Well, one day technology will allow us to.
One day technology, you'll be able to put your fork through the screen. I'm just going.
That's wonderful. Gosh, that is.
I don't know if have you ever had a mloukhia?
Yes, that's the soup that Egyptians make. The Egyptians.
Yes, so there is a Tunisian version as well,
really?
using the same powder, and we call it in French le plat qui ne finit jamais, the dish that never ends, because it's such like it's also made with meat, and we call it like asbana. It's like a sausage of meat with spices, coriander, parsley,
I know, yes,
mint,
mhm.
and it's cooked inside. It's really, really nice. But you have to eat it with a baguette, with a lot of bread, and you dip the bread and you eat it, and then it makes a hole in the middle, but it goes back to what it was. So you need to eat like a whole baguette with it, and but it's a very specific taste. The looking at you should try it
Next time.
next time.
We'll have to have a good
I'm going to
excuse.
join you as well.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Now,
Thank
Michelle,
you.
what's that video you want me to play? Is that for making?
Yeah.
Yes, that's when I arrived. And
Okay,
Fabienne
so
was busy. Fabienne was busy at the
I will go
stage.
and try and play this video.
It's only
Sorry.
a quickie.
Okay.
is that it?
That's it.
That's it. So that was lovely. So wonderful. You know, I am so impressed that Fabienne has dedicated 3 hours of her time for a Harif Zoom. I really am impressed. I think that is beyond the call of duty. I hope you actually freeze this, Fabienne, so that you can eat it on your actual Rosh Hashana seder.
Yes, definitely. I froze some.
Oh, good for
Oh,
you.
good.
Exactly.
Doesn't make me feel so guilty then.
No.
Lovely. So thank you very much for that. Honestly, we are all salivating here, I think.
Well,
You're welcome.
we're going to...
Bon appetit.
Yeah, bon appetit.
Yeah,
Right,
bon
now,
appetit.
the three amazing chefs, what do you recommend Lynn cooks me for Rosh Hashana now?
Hear that?
Definitely Fabienne's one.
So good.
Although if you want to be kind to her, she could just make the apple jam.
Yes, that probably doesn't take 3 hours, does it?
Not at all.
Okay.
Although it takes time to peel the apples and core them and
Oh,
dice.
dear.
But it's very meditative. I like what Fabienne said, that the meditation of cooking and the intention you put in as you cook is also part of the energy of the meal and part of the preparation for the new year. It's like what Serena was saying, which was so important, was including the children in the preparation. That's all part of what we give as women here. This was the woman's role traditionally, and now men can certainly step into the kitchen and help out, but traditionally this was the woman's role and this is what they offered.
Yeah, I love to have them help set the table and, like really be involved in the preparation of just getting the household ready. I think it's so important as guests arrive that they're there to welcome them and, take coats or jackets or just, welcome people. It's really, really important to get the whole family involved. And I think that also food and these meals is what binds us, what keeps the bonds together. And I always say that, the family that eats together stays together. And I think that that's really, really important, especially as holidays come and go. Because what we remember as adults is those traditions we had as children and those traditions that stay with us for the rest of our lives.
Absolutely.
Now we have Joe Samuels
Yeah.
wants to
Joe.
ask a question, and he was mentioned by Sarah previously. So Joe.
Go ahead,
Go
Joe.
ahead, Joe.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I was so amazed with every one of you, Sarah, Serena, and Fabienne, and of course the organizer Liz, and really brought more appetite to me that I ever can think of. One comment I want to add that in Baghdad, and we continue to practice, is instead of the leek, we use chives. Chives in Arabic, karat, which rhymes again with karet. So it's a playing on words. Karath is the chive, and karetushi, kartu oiben, disappear. Yeah. So this is the
That was
common.
chives, Joe?
Yeah, chives.
Chives,
Chive,
like the spring onions.
yeah, spring onion, but chive is the word in Arabic, karat in Arabic.
Correct. So maybe I misunderstood when I was doing my research.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
that's
It's
good
an
to know. As
herb.
I said, you know firsthand, and I was putting together. I was told leeks, but
Yeah,
chives
we
also
have
makes
leeks.
sense.
We at our Iraqi seder we do have leeks. We've never had chives, so I suppose there is a tradition.
I'm going to
Um,
ask my aunt as well. It's interesting all
right.
the different traditions, and as I said, this is something from the rabbis as a sign and symbol, so you
yeah,
can take it whichever way. It's a custom.
it's a playing
Thanks,
on
Joe.
words. It's a playing on words.
Exactly. That's the beauty of it, is that play on words, the Aramaic, and it gets lost unfortunately because we speak in English now. But there's a beautiful play on words in the Aramaic and Hebrew prayer.
That's absolutely wonderful. I don't know if there are any more comments in the chat, or if anyone wants to ask a question. Oh, Linda says chive isn't spring onion.
No,
It's
it's
not.
it's an herb.
Yeah.
It's actually an herb.
They're just smaller.
Yeah.
It's it's completely different.
No, I do know that.
Well, you certainly have tickled our taste buds, and you've added to our knowledge. Thank you all so much. And as we did mention, the recipes will be up on the Harif website very shortly. There are already 3 recipes. Oh, there's somebody else? Some other? There is a questioner. Okay. Hello there.
Hello, good evening, and
Good
thank you
evening.
for this amazing evening. I just want to add, I have written in the chat that in Paris, in Tunisia, from the end of the 19th century, we had le feuille de miel. It's the honey page, and I have
Feuille
an
de miel.
example from Paris from 1990. And I like to give this information because it's a page that you can see. Just a second, I will make the camera without the blur. So you can see this is an example from 1990 from Paris, and you have all the information about the seder brachot and about all the Jewish year dates. So
Oh,
it's
like a calendar.
the calendar, it's
Like
the
they
Jewish
give out
calendar
the
for
New
the
Year's
Jewish
over.
community. And
Yeah.
I am dealing with the Tunisian Jewish heritage, and I found in the National Library in Jerusalem that the most ancient feuille de miel was printed in Tunis in 1886.
Wow.
So, so it's something that I would like to research and
Yeah.
to make a research on it. And I want to thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And why do you think they produced this feuille de miel? Surely they would have found the blessings in a book, in a prayer book.
No, I think that the reason is to give the calendar, the Jewish calendar for all the year.
Right. So that was
It's all the
important.
parashot, all the
Right.
holidays, when is Pesach, when is Purim, when is the first day of Shavuot, the second day of Shavuot, etc., etc.
Right. Okay, that's fascinating. And of course, the backside of it is all the blessings and all
Ex
the
ex
yeah.
all the simanim,
All the simanim. Yeah, I've seen a modern version of that, the feuille de miel, but it didn't have the calendar on the back, unfortunately. Anyway, thank you very much for that. Sorry, what is your name? Moati?
Yes,
I've got seconds.
this is my name.
Yeah.
I didn't
Sandrine,
change my name. This is my wife's name.
I thought it might be. You don't look like a Sandrine. Anyway, thank you very much for that. That's very interesting.
You're welcome.
Yeah, never mind. So I think if there aren't any more questions, I'd like to thank everybody. Thank you all our wonderful ladies and brilliant cooks for everything you've told us tonight. I think it's going to enrich our Rosh Hashanah seder. And I wanted to wish everybody Shana Tova, תזכו לשנים רבות ונעימות, as we say.
Happy, healthy, and safe New Year.
Yeah, happy, healthy, safe New Year. And as you said, may our enemies be vanquished.
Right, that gives us
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
You will have to send samples of what you've proposed tonight to Lynn for me to taste.
Yeah. Poor Lawrence, that's the problem with being a volunteer. You don't get any perks in this.
But she's doing well.
I know, we'll come over to Fabienne.
This is my perk here.
It's easier that way. Okay, so I think before we close, I just wanted to remind everyone that actually over October, because of the high holidays, we won't have our full program of Zoom talks, but we will have one event on the 15th of October, and that's about the Iraqi roots of Kibbutz Be'eri, which the kibbutz, which unfortunately was one of the worst sites of the 7th of October massacres. So that will be on the 15th of October. But do stay with us because we've got a full program for November and December and into January and February. And it's all on the website.
And they're all on the adverts now, if you look.
Yeah, so we've got the advertisements, commercial break coming up. Don't forget our annual commemoration, which is in person and online if you want to follow it. And the theme this year is the Jews of Iran.
There you got two amazing singers coming from America.
Yeah, that's right. The Dardashti sisters coming from New York to London.
Great.
And on the 1st of December, we've got a film premiere, first time in Britain, first time to an English audience.
That's right.
A new film about the Exodus of Jews.
Yeah, I do recommend this film. It's called The Forgotten Exodus. It's by a Dutch filmmaker called Marcel Prince. And again, we are showing it live in London, and you can book, and there's an actually early bird discount until the end of September. Okay, so as is our custom. Are we now going to unmute everybody? You can all say whatever you like.
Yeah. In a disciplined fashion, everyone can now unmute themselves.
Yeah. Okay.
I can say hi to Lisbeth.
Thank you very much.
In Montreal.
Thank you.
We are a global audience here.
Yeah, thanks everyone for being here. It's really good to see you all, especially those I recognize.
Thank you, everybody, and especially the participant enriched our knowledge and appetite. Shana Tova M'borechet.
Shana Tova. Thank you. Shana Tova, everyone.
Shana Tova. Thank you once again, Sarah, Serena, and Fabienne.
Shana Tova, I popped in a bit late. I hope you had some more customs.
Hi, Gloria.
Michelle, how are you?
Good.
Sorry, I popped in late.
Yes, well, you can watch it on replay.
No problem.
You can watch it afterwards on replay. It's been a very interesting evening.
Okay.
Did you have some queens?
No, I'm busy eating pikela here. I'm being very disloyal to the Moroccans. I'm having real Tunisian food here. It's really delicious.
Okay, enjoy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sahat,
Actually,
sahat.
I'd love your quince recipe, Fabienne, if you've got it.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, my grandmother also made quince jam. It's a
Ah,
Yeah, also the Iraqis make quince jam, but not
interesting.
for Rosh Hashana. It seems the apple jam's for Rosh Hashana. I wonder though if they always had apples in Iraq. It's something I was wondering about. Joe, would you know? Is Joe still here?
I don't know. I don't know. Lisette is
Yes,
here.
yes, Shachab, in the north, I think.
Oh, Lizette, you're on mute.
Lisette?
Everyone can unmute themselves.
No,
That's
yeah. Lisette.
Liz,
That's on
can
mute. I
you
think
Plus,
press
you have-
unmute on the left?
Yeah,
On the bottom left, Lizette. Unmute.
never mind.
In
Anyone else remembers if there were apples in Iraq?
In the north, I
In the
think.
north, in
in
the
the north they'd
Very
have.
around where the mountains they had some.
Okay.
well, you go on the internet and you look up Iraqi apples, and what comes up? Sarah Sassoon's blog.
There you go.
Amazing.
I don't think anyone else in the world is asking the same questions as I am.
In Lebanon, we used the baby apples, and we made the jam out of them, individual apples,
Yeah.
Right.
little crab apples.
How cute.
Okay, this was in
That's-
Iraq. This was
No,
in Iraq.
Lebanon.
Lebanon. Okay.
That's
So,
Syria.
yeah.
That's Syria.
Right.
That
Yes.
should be.
Hello. Am I
Salima.
unmuted?
Hello, Lizette. We can hear you now.
Finally, yeah. Now I can't see me, but anyway, we had lots of apples of all kinds: white apples, green apples, red apples, and the tiny crab apples that were absolutely delicious.
Oh my God,
Of
Lizette, I
course.
need your contact details. I need to be in touch with you.
With me, with pleasure. We had apples in the garden, Lynn, your grandparents' garden.
Okay.
Lynn's grandparents and mine are the same. And I lived
Don't give
in
away the secret.
I lived there. And Lynn, we had apples in our garden. We had oranges. We had the very sour ones called trunge. We had figs, all in the garden.
Yeah. Amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes,
Like the
white
Garden of
figs,
Eden.
delicious.
Yeah.
Grapes.
I've heard of the
Pomegranates.
Pomegranates we had, but they were too small. They used to be tiny, and they used to be very bitter.
Oh dear.
So they would bring them in from Israel probably.
No, they had them in Iraq. I'm talking about our garden. Just the garden itself, not
Yes.
yeah.
Barak, she's right. They had them there. I remember from my grandmother.
What?
They had all kinds of fruit and things.
Oh, the fruits in Iraq were excellent.
Yeah,
I think
very
they were
good
better than
because
in
of Siberia,
Lebanon.
because of the Tigris River.
Yeah, it used to be very fertile.
Yeah.
Yes, very fertile.
Yeah. So you said you wanted my contact?
Yes, I'll get it from Lynn.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lynn, you can give it to her.
Okay. Lovely. So I think that's it. Shall we wrap up?
Yes.
Great. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
so I don't want to keep you from your supper if you haven't had supper. I'm sure you're dying to have a meal now.
I bet everybody's so hungry now.
Certainly watching you eat.
Nikolai.
Anyway, I just want to thank our wonderful guests, Sarah, Serena, and Fabienne again, and thank you again for all your dedication to this Zoom. That's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Shana Tova once again, and see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Fabienne's just coming back to say goodbye.
Shana Tova, everybody.
Bye,
Shana Tova.
everyone.
Bye.
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 I'm doing the washing up now.
No. Bye.